So that's it? What, we some kind of suicide squad?
After making my very brilliant Injustice 2 video, I got somewhat into it again. Sure, I barely played it, but I played it nonetheless. I specifically found myself playing the character of Deadshot a lot more than all the other characters. I've always been somewhat of a fan of Deadshot, but I haven't actually read any of his comics, which is why I said screw it and read the entirety of the famous 4-issue miniseries simply titled Deadshot, or sometimes Deadshot Beginnings, but you get the point. Point is, I read the 4-issue miniseries of Deadshot, and now I'm gonna talk about it. I have a really weird love for Beginnings here. On one hand, I like it, but believe there's some major issues, but on the other, I love it with all my heart and believe it needs more love. I am conflicted and I really don't like that. I'll try summing up all my thoughts in this video, but keep in mind that will be really hard to do because in my opinion, Beginnings is really good, but has tiny nitpickable moments that do bring it down a bit. I'll get into the dumb moments in a bit, but I can't really bash the comic because this was 1988 and boundaries simply didn't exist in those days. Seriously, shit was wild back then. I wish I could have lived to see that. Like, I mean, Thanos had a fucking helicopter for crying out loud. I'll say for the most part, Beginnings has a lot going for it. Believe it or not, this comic perfectly balances the genre of action and drama. And believe it or not, that shit is really hard to do. On one page, you see Deadshot shooting a bunch of guys on a plane, and on the next, you get the implication that Deadshot's son got raped and murdered by a pedophile who's been preying on him since the start of the comic. You get the perfect mix of seeing Deadshot's emotion as his life and family crumble apart piece by piece, and get some good action while you're at it. It's all weirdly perfectly balanced. Another thing the story does really well is explain the backstory of Deadshot without any flashbacks or entire issues. We get to learn so much shit about this dude's life through simple writing. I'd even say this is probably better writing than Skywalker Strikes. Writing-wise, however, Skywalker Strikes and Deadshot are very different. Skywalker Strikes' writing is good because the characters say things that they would probably say in each scenario. Deadshot's writing is good because we get to learn so much because of it alone. Like, we get to learn Deadshot killed his brother because he fucked up while trying to kill his dad. The only reason they tried killing him in the first place is because his mom forced him to get out of an abusive relationship between them. We learn all of that without any panels or flashbacks, just text. As we all know, for any Marvel, DC, and Star Wars comics, the action in them better be good or else the comic themselves can be sort of bland. Of course, this isn't for all comics, but in the case of Deadshot, it's almost necessary and or required for the action to be good. And the action is hella good. Some of the action here is in for like one panel and it's still gaudily drawn and overall really interesting to just stare at. A panel of Deadshot just repeatedly shooting a guy's hand is, for some reason, really amusing to look at. Most of the bad shit in this comic isn't really its fault, it's either me or how I read it in the comic. For one, I know I just got done praising this thing for its good exposition, and for the most part that is true, but there are some tiny moments where I felt confused or feel like they skimmed over a few details while writing. Like the part when they're explaining how and why Deadshot killed his brother is for the most part understandable to read, but there is some points I didn't understand or flat out don't think need to be there in the first place. Another thing I mildly don't like is how they try incorporating the Suicide Squad into all of this. It's minor because they show up for like 3 pages, but it's still there. Like during the airplane battle sequence, Deadshot escapes the plane to his inevitable demise, but then some random cosmic chick from Suicide Squad just comes out of nowhere to save him. Like, what the fuck and why? I really wanted to see how creative they would get into this part, but okay, sure, cosmic lady it is. In conclusion, Deadshot is a good-ass miniseries. All the issues get woven greatly to serve a large story almost perfectly. Some dumb shit is thrown in there too, but it's honestly not that big a deal when there's so much, good stuff in it. So I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. DC, please make a Deadshot movie.